Welcome back to Great Day. In the 1970s, Houston was world famous for being Space City, USA. So when a movie script called for a futuristic world with space-age architecture in 1975, naturally Hollywood came knocking and Houston delivered. It led to the making of the sci-fi thriller Logan's Run. With the help of our favorite Houston historian, we recently took a closer look at the film.
We're here at the location of the 1976 film Logan's Run.
Logan's Run. It begins where imagination ends.
One of the reasons why director Michael Anderson chose this spot was because of the architecture of the building. The hotel itself was built in 1972, designed by John Portman. He's somebody who inspired an entire generation to think outside the box, to go ahead and create buildings that had, different lines and feelings and spaces. You have no, hope but to just look up and in awe of how the atriums were designed.
Run, runner! Hear him?
Now, John Portman was a maverick because he was one of the first people to actually be a developer and an architect in one. When he put on a project, he oversaw every single detail of the project. He was also an artist. He was a painter and a sculptor. A lot of his works of art are featured in some of his buildings. But he was definitely well known for somebody, when you'd walk into one of his buildings, your head would immediately go up and you would be in awe of the space that you were in. He had that kind of appeal on people.
A fantastic journey through a world beyond imagination.
Houston back in the 1970s also had this fascination with space and Space City. If you look at Houston Center, for example, and several different office buildings around our area have that futuristic type component. Houston Center comes to mind only because they had ideas of doing sky bridges and mobile vehicles very similar to the ones that you see in the movie Logan's Run.
Welcome to the 23rd century. The perfect world of total pleasure.
And now, why the film crew, Michael Anderson and his team, decided to come here? They were already in Texas. They were filming at the Dallas Center and the Fort Worth Water Gardens, but they also needed a place to do some interior shots, and they chose the Hyatt Regency for its feel and look. The elevators were very futuristic. The building itself, it felt like you're in the 23rd century. The movie was filmed actually in the summer of 1975 here in Houston. It really was kind of a time period that you can look around Texas and see some of these big stars. You had Farrah Fawcett in town, of course, and you had, Michael York. And actually, it's funny because the original intention of that role was supposed to go to Jon Voight, Academy Award winner, but they ended up going with Michael York, and I think that the product speaks for itself.
And here to enlighten us with some more futuristic finds from the film, please welcome Houston historian and film buff Randy McKinney. Hello there, Randy. It's funny because they're like, welcome to the 23rd century. And I remember watching these movies back then going, that's what it's going to look like then. Well, it better look more futuristic because the 23rd century is here right now from the things that we see. Lasers were like fantasy back then. They do surgeries with lasers. We use lasers all the time now.
You're right, but the film captivated an entire generation, an entire audience. I mean, if you look at what Hunger Games, for example, this idea of population control, and that's what the movie's about. It's based on the novel, Logan's Run. When it first came out, it grossed about $25 million at the time, which is a big deal.
Huge.
Only cost $9 million to make,
yeah.
so it did really well. And it won several awards. It won 2 Academy Awards, one for special effects.
Yeah, and that theme still plays today. We talk about art imitating life or life imitating art, the whole population control thing. Sadly, we see that existing today. So that movie is one of those ones that you can still pull out and get a great lesson from.
Yeah, and the movie, nobody lived over the age of 30. They had a crystal in their hand, which kind of dictated when your time was to come.
I saw some strange faces on audience members like, over 30? Really? Wait, what? How many of you would not be here anymore if you didn't live over 30? Raise your hand. Oh, come on, raise your hand. Yeah, myself included. Of course, you didn't know that, but.
And it had some big stars, too.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the idea. It had, you had Michael York, who we all know. He did Three Musketeers and some other movies, but really it's the Austin Powers films he was best known for. And then in addition to Michael York and his Austin Powers career, we also had Farrah Fawcett, our own Texan Corpus Christi girl, poster girl. Everybody was in love with her, and she played a salon a consultant in the film. They had this process where you could look younger by going through surgery at the time, which is revolutionary.
At the time?
At the time, yeah. The idea of getting a brand new face. And, of course, she went on for Charlie Charlie's Angels with Jacqueline Smith, our Houstonian. There she is. And it filmed other people as well. You had
Jenny Agutter, yeah.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah,
People,
and Richard Jordan,
Richard Jordan, Jenny Agutter, there she is. Kind of a Princess Leia precursor, too, but Richard Jordan as well. And they went on. He wanted to hunt for it in October. You've got Sir Peter Ustinov, who is really popular. He won several Academy Awards and Shakespearean-themed actors.
It's interesting because when we see these movies, we don't realize how much the history of it is there and how much of it was related to Houston. We're seeing that a lot of movies were related to Houston. So thank you for bringing us these movies every now and then, giving us a fresh view
of
very
what
welcome. Those movies are. All right, so that was obviously back in the past, and now here's the present, right? Okay, little hair change right there. Okay, so many of you know that we had that winter storm warning out. We called in KHOU meteorologist Cheetah Johnson for a look at what you need to know. Welcome to Great Day. All right. A lot of people in flux right now wondering if they're going to work tomorrow, and especially with those of us with school kids who are wondering if school's going to be in. And we have some students with us today. How many of you, fingers crossed? Fingers crossed. Yeah, they're like, yeah, okay.
They're like, please cancel school for a day. How rare does that happen in Houston?
So we saw that whole story on Sci-Fi. Well, thanks to a lot of science reality now, we can predict things a little bit better than we used to. So what are you thinking so far?
Well, I think it's nice that the National Weather Service at least issued a severe storm warning.
Which is different from a watch.
That's right. They've upgraded, and I think that's going to help. That winter storm warning takes effect tonight through tomorrow and may linger until about midday, even in afternoon. So with that in mind, I think the best chance for probably the severe icing will be on the west-southwest side. And because they issued this a little bit faster, it'll give schools a little bit of added time, a little bit of cushion throughout the day to decide what they want to do, officially with, of course, calling the kids into school.
Now, speaking of the terminology, so watch means conditions are
favorable, and also with the length of time. So because we're expecting conditions to start maybe as early as 5 or 6 o'clock tonight, as far as College Station, Huntsville, northwest of town, they decided to go ahead and upgrade that into a warning.
Because warning means most likely going to happen somewhere.
That's right. And then also keep in mind tomorrow morning, that's probably when we'll see the iciest or worst conditions as far as winter precipitation, even a little snow flurry mixed in, not out of the question. If you're ever driving and it's in kind of a complete whiteout, it's always okay to pull over to the side of the road.
You need to pull over to the side.
That's always a good idea, or some people kind of try to tough it out, but I would definitely count on added time to get where you need to go tomorrow. And if you can, eliminate travel tomorrow morning. Maybe after about lunchtime, it'd be in your best interest.
And again, the overpasses and the whole things are a big concern.
Bridges and overpasses will be a big concern, but even icing on the roadways, on I-10, on I-45, major freeways, that could also be a concern as well. So if you're a little bit nervous about that, of course, David Paul will have the latest this evening, and it's just a good idea to stay up to date on this.
And ice is hard to drive on. I don't care who you are. We have some folks in our office from Minnesota and from Detroit who are looking at us going, what? You might close something?
It is. It's been about 3 years since we've seen severe icing here in Houston, so we don't get it every day. In
fact, we made national news this morning. They're going, down in Houston, they have a warning for some icing. It was like a big deal.
A winter storm warning does not happen often here, so when it does, we just like to prepare you, not to alarm you, but just so you know how to prepare for it.
All right. In closing, I get stopped all the time, and people go, Cheetah Johnson, is that her real name? And not only is it your real name, there's like several Cheetah Johnsons in your family.
We have 5 generations of mother-daughter cheetahs. So yes, my mom said when I got into the TV biz, she said, if you change your name, you're doing a disservice to our family.
Okay.
So it was like, you got to keep the cheetah. I thought, okay, the cheetah's
and one day there might be a 6th generation of a cheetah. Okay.
It'll take a little bit of time. Let's not rush it.
Okay. Cheetah, thank you very much. And of course, you'll keep us up to date throughout the day. When we come back, get ready for an adrenaline rush. Local rock group American Fangs perform.